Today we're going to talk about graphing quadratic functions, okay? It's section 8.3 in your book. You can look at that if you want, but I'm going to try to simplify it for you, okay? First thing is what you want to do is make sure the quadratic function is in the correct form. It has to be in standard form. So we're going to start out y equals 2x squared minus 4x minus 1, okay? Now this is in standard form because it's got the x squared, then the x, and then the constant, okay? So first thing is make sure it's in standard form. The next thing you want to do is you want to look at a, okay? A is this first number right here. So a is a 2. This number right here, okay, right in front of the x, that's b. So b is a negative 4. And then c is the constant, okay? So c is negative 1 in this case. So a is the number in front of the x squared. B is the number in front of the x. And c is the number that does not have an x by it, okay? So put it in standard form, find a, b, and c. Next, what I like to do is you look at a, okay? If a is positive, then this is a fill, okay? It goes up like this. If a was negative, it would be a spill. It would go upside down, okay? Sometimes they call it a happy face and unhappy face, okay? Next, what we want to do is we want to try to find the vertex, okay? In order to find the vertex, what we need to do is we need to find the x and y of the vertex. To find the x, which we do first, we have to use a formula, okay? And the formula is x equals the opposite of b over 2a. And you're going to have to memorize that, okay? So all we have to do is look at these numbers right here, and we're going to use, in this case, we're going to use the b, and we're going to use the a, okay? So this is saying the opposite of b. So if b is negative 4, the opposite of that is 4. So we have a 4 over 2 times a, and in this case, a is a 2. So we have to put a 2 there. Hopefully you saw where I got that. This says the opposite of b, so b is a negative 4, so we put a 4. A is a 2, so I put a 2 where the a is. Okay, then you figure this out. This is going to be 4 over 4. Well, 4 over 4 is 1. Okay? So for my vertex, my x value is 1. Now, the vertex has an x and a y. So we found the x, now we have to find the y. So what we have to do is take this number here and plug it back into the original equation where you see an x, because remember, x is a 1 in this case. So we're going to take a 1 and plug it in right here and right here. Okay, so let's do that. Y equals 2. And remember, when we replace a number into a problem, we need to put parentheses. Okay? And what do we put inside this? We put a 1. Okay? So that 2 is the same as that 2. That x is where we put the 1 in. Then it says minus 4, so we say minus 4. There's another x, so we put a 1 in there. And then we figure this out. Now follow your PEMDAS, okay? 1 squared is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. And then you have a minus 1, okay? Now when I figure this out, I get negative 3. This is right here. That's going to be negative 5. So it's 2 minus 5. What's 2 minus 5? Negative 3. So y is a negative 3. So for my vertex, remember my x was a 1 and my y is a negative 3. Okay? So that's where my vertex is. And usually we just put a V. Okay? Or you can write it like this if you want. Okay? It's probably easier if you just put a V there. All right? Next, what do I do next? Well, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a table because I need to find some more points. Remember, table of values. We used those last week. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Okay? You see the x, it's a 1. What I want to do is pick two numbers that are either higher or 1 or lower than 1. Okay? In this case, I'm going to pick two numbers that are higher than 1. So, don't make more work for yourself. Just pick numbers that are small. Okay? So, what's the next number bigger than 1? Well, 2 is bigger than 1, right? So, what we can do is put a 2 into this problem right here, okay, where the x's are. So it's 2, and then remember there's parentheses squared, minus 4, then parentheses, minus 1, right? And what are we going to do? We're going to fill this parenthesis with a 2, okay? So I'm going to put a 2 in here, and a 2 right here. Now when I do that, 2 squared is 4. 4 times 2 is 8, right? And over here I got negative 4 times 2, which would be negative 8, minus 1. So what happens when you get this answer? 8 minus 8 is 0, and then you have 0 minus 1, so the answer is minus 1. So when you put a 2 into this problem, you get a negative 1 out. All right? Next, what I would do is put a number like 3. Okay? Remember, we're trying to pick two numbers that are higher or lower than 1. So I'm going to put a 3 in here, okay? And when I put a 3 into this problem, it's going to look like this, right? And when you do the math, okay, you're going to come out with 3 and 5, all right? So, next, what we do is we are ready to graph, okay? So let's see if we can graph this thing. And by the way, we know it's a fill. So let's go over here and let's graph this. It's best if you have a piece of graph paper, then you don't have to do what I'm doing. But we can do it the long way. All right? So let's see what we've got here. Okay, the first thing you should probably graph is the vertex. Okay, the vertex is 1, negative 3. So if I go 1 to the right and I go down 3, 1, 2, 3, there's my vertex. Okay. Now, the next number we chose is we chose a 2. Okay. And when we put a 2 into the problem, negative 1 came out. So if I go 2 to the right and 1 down, that puts me right there. Okay. Next, when I put a 3 into the problem, I got a 5. So if I go over 3, 1, 2, 3, and then up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's about right there. It looks like that. Okay. Now, one of the things that we have to remember here is we know a couple things here by just looking at the problem. Okay. The first thing that I know is my line of symmetry, okay, my line of symmetry okay? Sometimes called the axis of symmetry, AOS. That is the x value of the vertex, okay? Your line of symmetry is your x value of your vertex. So in this case, my x value is a 1. So my line of symmetry is x equals 1, okay? Now you say, why is that important? Well, a line of symmetry cuts the parabola in half, okay? So I made this little dashed line right here. And what this does is this cuts this parabola in half, right? So this point right here is 1 to the right of this axis of symmetry. So if I go 1 to the left, it would be right here. Okay? Now if you look at this point right here, okay, this point is 2 to the right. So if I go 2 to the left, that's 1, 2. There's a point over here, okay? Now, when you look at this is going to be kind of tough, but when you connect your points, I didn't do a very good job there, okay? There's my parabola. That's what it looks like. My vertex is 1, -3, right? My line of symmetry is x equals 1, okay? And now there's one more thing. Oh, actually, there's a couple more things. This point right here, when you have a fill, that is the lowest point, okay? So we have something called a max or minimum. Max or minimum. Max or min, okay? Since this is a fill, okay, this has a minimum point. In other words, a lowest point, okay? The minimum value on this, okay, is -3. And where do I get that from? I can get it right from there, okay? So my minimum value is -3, okay? You can write it this way, or you can write it minimum is -3, okay? And remember, if it was going the other direction, like if it was going what I call a spill, that would be a maximum height, okay? And you still get it from the y value of the vertex. Domain. The domain of this problem is, in other words, what numbers can I put in for x's? I can put all reals, okay? Any number. I can put any number to the right or any number to the left, because remember, this keeps going up forever. Range. This is a little tricky, okay? Your range on this problem, okay, is going to be, since our minimum value is -3, that's the lowest it can go. So y has to be greater than or equal to -3, okay? So basically, that's it. I can do another problem for you, okay? And that will be one of the problems from our homework. Let me help you with that one.